If one day you wake up and find yourself in a prison with 100 levels stacked on top of each other, with 2 people trapped on each level, and food is delivered only once a day from the top where the person there chooses to eat first, while those below must wait for the food to descend. If you're unlucky enough to be on a lower level, there might not be anything left for you to eat. What would you do? The story begins when a young man named Goran, on his first day, wakes up on level 48 and sees an older man who happens to be his cellmate. He wakes up confused and asks if this place is what he calls the pit. The older man confirms and says it's a 100-level prison, and today marks the beginning of a new month. The next thing Goran wonders about is the food on their level. He questions why it's such a big deal for the man. It's just a square room with a large hole in the ceiling and one on the floor for moving a large food tray through. The people on the upper level can choose how much they want to eat, but those below can only have what's left by the people above. Or worse, they might get nothing. Goran starts a conversation with the older man, but he's reluctant and tells Goran to stay on his side as his cellmate doesn't trust him much. Goran asks for the man's name, and he says they might have to stay together for a while, so he can call him Old Man. Old Man has been in this prison for years. He knows the ins and outs of life within these walls. He explains that life here can be easy or hard, depending on which level you're on. Luckily, they're on level 48, which is relatively high. Everyone in this place is randomly moved to different levels at the end of each month. If it's the 100th level, there's nothing left for them to eat. Goran inquires about how many levels are below them, but Old Man doesn't know. Soon after that, the signal for their food delivery grew louder, but when their first meal arrived, it was just the leftover, oversized portions. Despite the odd appearance, they hastily dealt with the food, as if they were famished for a long time. Goran exclaimed, "Are you going crazy? You have to eat this food." But he noticed an untouched apple. He decided to save the apple for later. Old Man smiled, and as the time to eat passed, they moved down to the next level. The temperature in the prison rose to an unbearable level. Goran asked what was happening, why the atmosphere became so hot. Old Man explained that it must be because someone secretly took and disposed of the apple he saved. Goran quickly threw the apple down to save themselves. I in this prison. The following day, as the food tray arrived, Goran still refused to eat the food. The protagonist questioned how low he had been in this prison. Old Man had revealed he had been at level 132. This shocked the protagonist even more. The protagonist listened and wondered how Old Man had managed to survive. Then, someone descended from above, and no one seemed to care. As the protagonist moved the food tray down, this time, someone sat on the tray. She sat quietly. He asked if she was okay, reaching out to her, but she appeared frightened. Old Man had introduced herself as Miharu. She descended every month to look for her son. In this place, they had the option to change cellmates each month, which was how the previous cellmate had been exchanged. She came down each month to increase her chances of encountering her son. The food tray signal sounded again, and the food moved down. Goran looked at the woman with concern as she reached the lower level, but then a moment later, a loud sound echoed. It didn't seem like Miharu's voice. Finally, they saw Miharu returning to sit on the food tray before it moved to the level below. The end of the month arrived. Every prison cell would be filled with deadly gas. Goran found himself on level 171. Goran was bound too tightly to move, helpless on a bed. This time, it seemed like he would become the food for Old Man. Whenever the food was lowered to this level, there was nothing left but food scraps. Goran was restrained, waiting to be a meal. Time passed, and it was 8 days later when Old Man began cutting Goran's flesh to consume. He started by slicing Goran's leg, and Goran cried out in agony. Meanwhile, it happened to be the time when the food tray moved to their level. This time, Miharu descended as well. She and Goran appeared to have a connection, so she helped him. She struck Old Man's head with a glass and dealt with him until he died. Goran and Miharu then consumed the fresh flesh of Old Man. Afterward, she went to find her son, allowing Goran to survive until the end of the month by eating the body of his cellmate. Then, he was moved up to nearly the top level, which was level 6, along with a new cellmate. This new cellmate was a polite, religious person. Goran woke up as he usually did, later than his neighbor. This time, he woke up because of the shouting from his new cellmate. This cellmate, named Parahat, had brought a rope with him and begged the people above to let him ascend higher. The people above played along and told Parahat to throw the rope as they would catch it and help him climb up. Of course, it was just a cruel joke. Parahat climbed higher and neared the level above. The person above started to pull, causing Parahat to nearly fall down. With time, the food was delivered to their level, and this time, the food was almost entirely fresh. Goran thought that if they shared the food, everyone would survive. Goran made the decision to go down and share the food with others, including Parahat. They planned to go up to the food platform together, protect the food, and ensure everyone only took what was necessary, so there would be some left for the lowest level. Those who didn't comply would face their might, as they knew each level was full of desperate and dangerous people, ready to do anything for a share of the food. Both of them made their way down, armed with improvised steel rods cut from parts of the prison cell. Before reaching level 51, they asked the others to abstain from eating for a day because they had been eating daily. As they descended further, the situation worsened. At level 200, there was no food, and everyone was prepared to resort to violence. Continuing to descend led them to level 333. There, they encountered a child who had survived and was the only person left in the prison. This child had likely survived by eating scraps that had fallen over time. However, on the food platform, there was only one plate of food left, intended as a signal to the system's caretakers that their mission was accomplished. Goran and Parahat decided to give the last plate of food to the child. Parahat died before the food platform moved, leaving only Goran and the child. Goran decided to entrust the child with the symbol to show the system's caretakers, and then he helped the child onto the platform. This marked the end of their story.